Hey guys, I want to make a controversial statement, and it is that I believe Western societies are the best societies on earth. If you ever take a sociology class or Feminist 101, they'll tell you that Western societies, they're trash, they're terrible. You gotta go live in those other countries that people migrate away from. Speaking of migration, America has a long history of immigration to America because it is a nation of immigrants. And throughout its history, it's always done just fine. But in Europe, they've come across a problem. And that is, they have too many migrants. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why would it work in America versus in Europe? And an alt-right person will tell you, oh, it's because the white people immigrated to America. That's not true. It's because you have to limit immigration to a point. Because what happens is if you have too many immigrants to a place, they will stick together and form little groups of those people. And you even still see that in America with the black communities. After slavery ended, a lot of them still stayed together and lived together in these black communities. And so what happened is they've made their own separate culture in America. Now, the problem with that is then you get separate cultures in a society. And that's what's happening in Europe. You have these people coming in from other countries who speak different languages, they have different traditions, and what happens is they get in these groups and they live in completely separate cultures from the outside rest of the country. What you typically want to do is limit immigration so that you can disperse them out into the population. And that does one important thing. The first generation, the original migrants, they are going to probably stay the same. They've come to the country because they're searching for wealth, freedom, because they like the country. The second generation, however, they will feel probably some attachment to their old homeland or whatever. But the thing is, if they grow up in a community where all they know is that same old tradition, they will still grow up as if in that old tradition. However, the successful way to do it is disperse them into the population, because then they grow up in that outside community and adopt the new culture. And that's how you do successful immigration. You separate them. You don't have them in little groups, because otherwise they never grow out. Those little groups just grow out, and then you just have separate cultures, which is what's happened in the black community. That's why if you look at black community in America versus anywhere else in the world, they're so different. And that's a big failure on the Europeans' part. Is the EU said we need this many migrants, and that really messed them up, because instead of dispersing them through the population, they took in too many, and then they held that old culture. But that's just how to run immigration in a country. That's 101. You have to disperse them so that otherwise they don't work out very well. If you know anything about the immigration in Europe, it really doesn't work out that well. And that just doesn't go for immigration whenever you need to disperse people out through a population. That goes for racism. To fix a racist, you have to make them see that just because someone is of a different race, that doesn't mean anything. The way you fix a racist is you show them the humanity of that other race. You show them that just because they're another race, that doesn't change anything. You have to make them live with that other race. You have to make them realize. And sometimes you can't fix someone after they've been taught that way for so long, because they get set in their ways and you can't change them. But they're kids. They're kids. Those are the ones you want to brainwash. Anyways, that's really all I wanted to talk about. I kind of repeated myself a few times there, but it is what it is. I plan to get better as I go. But hope you all have a wonderful day.